You're listening to a Money on the Move podcast. Today, we're talking to Emily McCarthy from GORUCK.
Emily, it's so great to meet you. I'm so excited to meet you in person with your GORUCK events next week in New York City. Um, Talk to me a little bit about where the idea for GORUCK started, and yeah, give me a little bit about your background.
So nice to meet you, Marnie. Yes, I'll be in New York next week. I'm really looking forward to it. We have a fun, fun array of events up there for the launch of something big that's coming. But yeah, to get to the origin story of GORUCK, it was like most things that are good in this world. It was a happy accident. It wasn't sort of that you know it was ever something we set out to do. My husband Jason, he was in the military serving as a Green Beret in wartime, and I happened to get swept up in the post 9/11 recruitment and became a case officer in the CIA. So we were living apart for the first 5 years of our first marriage. We went back around again. So that's another story. But the the gist of it is that he came to visit me when I was posted in West Africa, saw the situation where I was living in kind of a war-torn environment without a green zone, without a team, and he said, "I'm going to make you a GORUCK." Based on some of his military training and some of the gear that he had been issued. So he built out a bug out bag for me. So what happens when there is a coup and things go sideways? And so he built this out for me, and I remember like thinking it was really awesome. I had a GORUCK bag, filled with all the necessities, water, passport, money, extra food for our dog, extra food for me, maps of had a E&E, different sorts of things that you'd put in a survival kit. And other people wanted one. So that made me think, hey, we should do this GORUCK thing, and so Jason, of course, decided that meant to design his own cool bag, and so one that would look good in Baghdad and also look good in New York City. So that's kind of how it started. And it was just like this side project pipe dream for him to keep him busy while he was our plan was for him to transition out of the military and join me in the CIA. But that's a very lengthy process. There's background checks, polygraphs. It takes a while. So it was just sort of something to do in the meantime.
I'm so curious about the CIA. Obviously, I'm sure everybody wants to know, like, what was your background before that you like, did you set out to be in the CIA? Like, did you have a political background? Like, where did that
Mm.
come from?
No, no, that's the funny thing. I mean, did I like Harriet the Spy and Nancy Drew
Right.
as a
Yeah,
kid?
I was just
Yes.
going to ask about Nancy
Yeah,
Drew, but I
yes.
refrained.
But
Yeah.
Nancy Drew, I mean, I saw Silence of the Lambs when I was in eighth grade and was
Oh my
like, I want
God.
to go to the FBI. I want to be Clarice Starling, like I wanted that kind of excitement and adventure, maybe without the serial killer, but the,
You never know. I
you
mean,
never know.
Criminal Minds. I mean, do you
Yeah,
watch that show?
we like this sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole, there's a whole genre of this. So I I was interested in that, but never thought I was going to be um, a case officer, and I never saw myself as James Bond. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
And never really imagined that. But I did love, I had spent some time as a volunteer post college overseas working in impoverished communities. I'd always wanted to go to Africa. I was up for adventure. And so this opportunity came around, and my background was as a teacher in like humanitarian work, social work, but at the ripe age of 23. So
Right.
I, uh, so what happened is basically Jason was like, you should apply for the CIA, because he had looked into that and before he had joined the military, but found out that the stuff he wanted to do the CIA doesn't train for that. You have to actually go to the military, and then they recruit from the military. So he was like, "All right, I'll do it. I'll do." That was his plan. So I applied, and I applied as a language teacher because I was a French major coming out of college and spoke Spanish and thought I could be useful in that regard.
That's awesome.
And did it, but they had different plans for me, and so 9/11 was, like I said, there was a big push to do more in terms
Hmm.
of our intelligence and of our military. And I went through the process, and the whole time I was like one eye open, like I'm not sure this is for me. Like I was getting ready to like apply to, other places overseas to work in a humanitarian or NGO capacity, and
Right.
I was skeptical of like what this was, but I was also curious. And so every step of the way, I kind of said, well, I'll see what's next. And eventually got, the conditional offer to become a case officer. And it's all probationary at the time until you
Right.
go through the training. The training's really long. I mean, it's almost 2 years total of training. And it's really fun and exciting, and you're learning new things, and being put through this crucible with a bunch of other
Yeah.
people that are coming from different backgrounds. So I'm glad I took it that sort of adventure, and beyond that, um, I was one of the first in my farm graduating class to actually deploy, to be stationed, and that was really exciting for me as a young officer. And it's something I tell people that are interested in this line of work is that working for the government in certain capacities, you are given a lot of responsibility at a young age, and I think that can be really a great experience.
Yeah.
Where you're not just having to work your way up. No, I was sent, and within a month on the ground, my boss had to leave, and I became an acting chief of station, and I was put in a position where I had to know what I was doing. So I had to rely upon, reaching out to people and asking them questions like, "Hey, is this okay for me to do this?" sort of thing, and debriefing uh, visitors that came through, high level visitors. So it was an exciting time.
And you're not allowed to talk about it, right, when you're doing it. So what do you tell people? Or are you allowed to say that you're in the CIA? You're not, right?
You're, I was not at the time. I mean, there's different roles, and certain
Okay.
ones are undercover, and ones that are not. I was in an undercover position at the time. I actually never even told my immediate family. The
Yeah.
only person who knew at the time was my husband, Jason, and I think one of his family members who had ties to this so kind of world. So it was very close-lipped and isolating in some ways. The I think that's somewhat the norm for people in that line of work. I do think some as you go along, your cover roads, and so you take on different positions. But
Yeah.
you're still, you know, trying not to let people know these types of things because it could lead to too many questions.
And so, like, I mean, it just sounds like at such a young age, you were like thrown into having to make all these big decisions and like, you know, learn mindsets that people in their 40s learn, right? 50s. Like, you don't learn how to like, pivot like that or how to adapt or how to go with the flow or take risks when you're like super young. And that still translates to starting a business. And also like the idea that you didn't set out to do that, right? Like it just happened. It was organic. So talk to me about like I guess, I could talk about the CIA and ask a
Yeah,
million stupid
we
questions
could, but
for
we
like the
got to
next
get somewhere.
hour.
Yeah.
No, but I want to talk about GORUCK and like
Yeah.
how you take some of those lessons from your early days in your career to, building GORUCK and,
Hmm.
taking it from this idea where Jason said, here's a Go Ruck bag for emergencies to this weighted vest and to this workout and to all the things that Go Ruck is today. So I don't know if you can
I
take me
can.
through that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
I
Awesome.
can. I love these kind of questions. Thank you for asking them. I First, I'll say that what I loved about being in the CIA and a case officer is that every day was different. I loved that it was exciting. And yes, there was a lot of boring parts of it and mundane, writing a lot of cables and whatnot. But you just didn't know. It's like being a journalist. Like, what's
Right.
happening today, right? Like, what do I need to go chase down and find out about? So that was really exciting to me. And I remember something that was really funny in my farm training. There was one instructor at the farm that was like, a good case officer, is not consistent. They change up they're not predictable. They're changing up their routes every day. They're doing different things. And I was like, yes. As someone who's not I'm not I try to be a routine person, but it's hard for me. And so I loved hearing that because it just felt like there was this aspect of my personality that had been fighting, my whole, childhood.
And you found your people.
And I found it where I was like, yes, this is actually can be an asset. And I just think, zoom out, and that's the kind of like beautiful world we live in, where like something that can be looked at, like frowned upon in certain environments is actually a benefit in others. So I always think about that when I talk to people. Like, I know you don't feel like you're fitting in here, but somewhere else needs you. And so GORUCK was very much colored by Jason and I at our the time we spent in these difficult environments, right? And we've known each other a long time. We went to high school together, so
Yeah.
as friends, and so we go way back. So our friendship is really strong. That being said, like GORUCK was born out of failure. It was born out of the ashes of our first marriage, and it was born out of being both in a wartime environment and going through stuff that's actually hard, and it took its toll. It took a cost at us, and so I think of that sometimes as it's a really humbling experience to be like, wow, this actually shouldn't be here today in a lot of ways, and the fact that we're together again and raising children together and running this business together is a little bit of a small miracle in of itself.
That's
um,
amazing. That is incredible. And for you to be able to like have the hindsight to look back and then to move forward. That's huge.
I can't say that I can't take all the credit for this. I
Right.
think it was I don't know. I don't really know why things that happened the way they did. I mean, obviously it's taken a lot of work and struggle to get to this point again, and we still struggle as like two really strong-willed individuals that are trying to like run something together. But basically, we started this company together, and it was just from the little bit of money we had saved up from like our deployments, and then we moved apart but always stayed in touch. And for example, Jason decided, well, I've got nothing else going on right now, so I'm just going to continue to build out this rucksack that we designed. And then nobody wanted to buy it because it was too expensive. It's a crowded market, who cares, kind of thing. And this is all happening like 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
The financial crash had happened, and in 2010 Jason decided to show how durable these rucksacks were by putting a bunch of bricks in it and doing the first ever Tough Mudder with a bunch of his Green Beret buddies. And
Okay.
I know this is just
That's
this
so
is just
funny though,
life.
because it's like how things happen.
Stranger fiction, you can't write something, like fiction is not even as crazy as reality. I'm paraphrasing like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle or something about that, but he did this. And funny enough, like I'm still like we're still in touch on some ways, because we have a dog that we share we were like trying to figure out who should get the
What kind of
dog.
dog?
A chocolate lab is this dog Java. I actually got him because I was deploying to Africa, and a case officer mentor of mine, she had done a solo tour as a female and in another part of Africa, and she said, you got to get a dog. You got to take them with you on your meetings and stuff. It's like your best bodyguard, because otherwise you're just out there on your own. So I didn't get like a Rottweiler
I was
like she
gonna say, like,
had.
you got a lab.
I got a lab, but
Okay,
parts
good.
of the world, dogs are not like,
Dear,
it's
yeah.
not a friendly thing. So any dog looks like a guard dog, and he was a
Okay.
big lab, and he actually was quite tough, not
All
like
right.
our lab. We have a chocolate lab now named Monster, and he's just such a wimp. He's like a model dog. But
Yeah.
so we had Java together, so we're in touch on this stuff. We're a little bit in touch on the GORUCK side of things, but nothing's really happening, and then he starts, because of the Tough Mudder thing, it kind of created this little buzz, and so he started doing these GORUCK challenge events, like based on his special forces training, where he'd bring a bunch of the bags, fill them with bricks, and lead people on sort of a little, you know, dip your toe in the special forces life. It was like
Yeah.
12-hour challenges. The first ever one was in San Francisco in 2010 in September. And then he came to New York. And there was
Yeah.
like enough demand that he had two classes. And I showed up for the third ever event just because I wanted to show him that this wasn't too tough, for his ex-wife to do. It was more of a, it was like a friendly, like, I'm still
Yeah.
gonna do this dumb event.
I mean,
But
let's just like it definitely like only a lot like guys are into that, right? Like, I mean, I definitely would do something like that, but I would say like predominantly in the world, like if you said to a woman, like, do you want to put a bunch of bricks in a bag and go for a workout? They'd be like, why? You know?
and go jump. And then at the time, it was like go jump in the Hudson when it's
Yeah.
17 degrees outside. And as soon as we got out and dried off, he's like, get back in, And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yes.
but I was like, I'm not gonna let him tell me I can't do this.
Right.
So
And so then, so you showed up to prove him that like it wasn't just like there are a lot of, yeah, so that's so funny.
did. And I mean, I'm not saying that was a proud moment, but it's like funny now because I get to
Yeah.
be able to say, like, well, I wasn't the first ever female at a GORUCK event. I was the second because there was a woman in the San Francisco class. Good on her. Because,
Yeah.
with me coming in with that mindset, I didn't deserve to be first.
That's so funny. And
Yeah.
so when did it go from like filling it with bricks and jumping in the Hudson and all the events to
Yeah.
like a mainstream? Because obviously it's very mainstream and you now have like a women's specific product, which is launching this flash forward from that moment where you were like the experimental women jumping in the Hudson with bricks
Yeah.
in a backpack. Uh, talk to me about how far you've come. And I know this week in New York City, and you're launching a new women specific
Hmm.
product. And I'd love to hear more about that. So talk to me about like
Yeah.
the bricks versus the actual product that you made, and then how it's transitioning or maybe encompassing women specific
the
rucking.
You
Yeah.
have no idea how important the bricks are in our history. Like,
Yeah.
Jason would show up to these early events having gone to Home Depot with a bunch of bricks and tell people distribute them as you like and put them all in the rucksacks that he would bring, hoping someone would like them enough to go buy one later. So, the crazy part of this is that here we are, and you actually know what rucking is, and you've heard of Go Ruck. And
Yeah.
we are launching a women specific product for the first time ever. We've done a lot of work on products for women in the past, like curved straps, and the ruck plate carrier was something to make it seem more streamlined and appealing to women, but it was still something that was gender neutral. And but just to tell you, like, this didn't happen overnight. Like, we've been leading thousands, hundreds of thousands of events with hundreds of thousands of people since 2010, from like 5 people to thousands, depending on the event. Most of our events are around like the 25 to 35 person range. So it's this really sort of intimate experience where a cadre, who we've expanded what that definition means now that we've, got more interest in different areas. But originally, the cadre were combat veterans of special operations. So your Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Force Recon Marines, you know, Air Force, like paramilitary, all these different types of backgrounds, and with special operators, Rangers, and they would basically, these guys were coming out of these war zones and they were teaching these lessons through kind of physical, challenges. And this GORUCK way of like, hey, you can carry the weight in your up here in your head, or you can carry it on your back, or all these people that would come together, they would be at 1 a.m. on a street corner, and no details forthcoming, and
like
so
hazing. I love that.
People would show up, and it wasn't like, but the hazing part is interesting because the special forces sort of mindset is to work by, with, and through people to force multiply. So you're actually looking to build a team, not to beat someone down for no good reason. It's not a boot camp. It's not to deprogram. It's to actually like, hey, let's find our common denominator and then let's work together as a team. Let's see where people's strengths are. And like, you have people that would, look really strong and think they would, but they would carry the team, but it ended up being sometimes the small person who was like just really good at bringing people together, and a lot of time that would be women who would find a way to keep people's spirits up in different ways throughout the night, because it was an overnight experience. So since then, you asked that, like, the GORUCK events have evolved in a lot of ways. We do anything from like a 5K scavenger hunt type event to as hard as it can get, which is our 48-hour selection, which, only a few dozen people have ever finished that have tried it, because it's like Special Forces selection. It's the only event that we do that's not really team-based. But
I live vicariously through these things, by the way. I love hearing the stories.
There's a great documentary actually on our hardest event called The Standard. And it's it's really beautiful. It's on Prime. It's you can get it off of Apple. It was on American Airlines on the menu on planes for a while. I had people messaging us and saying, I just watched this. It was really great. My kids love to watch it, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
But long story short, we've been rucking for a long time. And something that I like to point out is that by, like I said, a happy accident from Jason's training and sort of as rucking as the foundations of Special Forces training, rucking went from being just this very military specific thing to something that civilians do for fitness. And that's something that started way back when in 2010, when we started these first events that included women, and that included all different types, civilian, military, very fit backgrounds, not so fit. And it was something that people could do together and still get something out of it. And today we're talking about where now it's becoming more of a household verb, and it is a new fitness category. It's something that people weren't doing outside of the military, and now they're looking at it as a way to enhance their walking or get strength training in when they don't have a gym available or want to go to a gym. And it's just become this great way for people to connect. And what we like to say is rucking is scalable. Like, you and I could go for a ruck, Marnie, and let's say you wanted to carry more weight and I wanted to carry a little less. We could still do that and still be moving together and having a conversation. And that's what I think one of the great things about it. You can do it on your own, of course, but we always say it's better with others. It's a social fitness phenomena. So that brings me to today. We've had women in GORUCK from the very beginning, not just me, but others. these women were pioneers of sorts. They either a lot of them came from the military side or military adjacent. They knew someone was in. It was some way for them to kind of get closer to that and understand. But slowly but surely, people brought their friends and said, "I'm doing this really fun, crazy thing. Come join me." And then ruck clubs started, where people decided they wanted to train for these hard events that we were putting on. So they started to meet up together and just go for rucks like you would go for a run or go for a walk together. And so that started in 2013, 14. Those are the first ruck clubs that started. Now we have over 700 ruck clubs around the world. And some of them have hundreds of members. Some of them have just a couple, based on what they're all about and where they're located. You can just imagine now we've got even more women interested in rucking, even more the age diversity, fitness levels, finding out that, wow, this is actually a really great activity that I like. It's adding, I'm already walking, I'm already walking my dog, or I'm already, walking my kids to school or something like that. So I can add these extra, bit of pounds on and get more benefits in terms of caloric burn, strength training. We found out it's good for bone density,
I was
all
just
these
about to
added
say,
benefits. Hmm.
like women especially, and like, when you're young, you get a lot of advice and no, you don't listen to it, me included. But like once you start to like turn 40, you're like, oh wait, I should have listened to that. And so I feel like
Like putting on
women,
sunscreen.
yeah, oh, like I never did that. I didn't use skincare, like nothing. Like I just, I totally
Winging
just
it.
pieced out on I didn't listen to any of my older clients that would like give me advice on business, nothing. Anyway, flash forward. One of the things I like about rucking or wearing this like weighted vest and going for a walk is also posture, right? Because a
Yes.
lot of as a runner, as a triathlete, like I recently, like in the last year or so, started having like some sciatic issues with my back that have triggered some pins and needles in my foot, which I've gone to physical therapy and I know what it is, and it's not like bad, but it's, something. And I
Yeah.
find that when I fix my posture and use my core when I'm walking, this only happens when I'm walking. It's a huge difference. And I feel like having that weighted vest, even if it's like a lightweight, it's just like
Yes.
a kind of like reminder to like walk a certain way or move a certain way that's more a proper alignment or a better gait. And the bone density is huge. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I Posture is a big thing in our family. Jason always says, like, he always like has complimented me on my posture. He's like, "You," and I was like, "I don't even notice." And he's like, "No, you have really good posture." I think it's probably because I played piano, when I was younger.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
always had to
definitely.
like
Because
sit
you're
up.
probably like,
My
yeah,
teacher was always like, sit up straight. So but now with tech neck and people looking down on their phones all the time, posture has never been worse, I think.
yeah.
And so it is a big thing. And I actually just gave one of our new products, which I'll talk about soon, to a woman that I coach cross country with, because I'm a runner as well. And she put it on. This is first time for trying it, and she was like, "Oh, it makes my back feel so good. I feel like I'm working on my posture while doing this too."
Yeah.
And you can just see it just makes you naturally roll your when you put any of our rucksacks on, or a ruck plate
You're,
carrier, or like a weight
yeah,
vest, it just naturally makes your shoulder engage and those muscles engage, and that's good for your core as well. It's good for your posture. It's good for how you're walking. And movement, we know, is key of all these things. It's
yeah,
just like getting more people out there moving, is the goal. And if it just feels good, it actually, there's all these great ancillary things, with the weighted blanket, stuff, and how it's good for people who have sensory things like my youngest does. It's like, putting that on, you just feel more secure in some ways. It's really
yeah.
great.
You know, you have designed all these amazing vests and rucking products, but I mean, women day to day are doing
Yeah.
these things anyway. Like I was saying off camera that I carry my dog everywhere, and obviously women with kids have, go through pregnancy and then they carry their kids for a couple years, hopefully not too long. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. No, it's true. It's we don't realize, but we were built to carry, and we've all been rucking on some level, whether it be like you just mentioned, in utero or when the baby's out, even as school kids, we're rucking books to school, things like that. And, it's just something that humans evolved because of this, because of our ability to carry. We weren't always the fastest. We weren't, we didn't have the best sense of smell. We weren't, we didn't have the best defense mechanisms, but we were able to carry heavy loads for long distances, on two legs. And that's something that separated from us. And I just remind people that, you know, you already know how to ruck. It's that simple. And that's what's so great about this new way of fitness that, we Jason just came across this sort of by accident because he joined the military and found out, wow, this is one of the things I'm actually really good at there, because I mean, he was good at other things, but he was really good at the rucking part and he really liked it. And he liked it better than running, because I always made him run things. But he liked this better. And the older I get, the more I find that while I still like to run, I do like the ability to just slow it down sometimes and do it with and go on a ruck with other people and change the weight depending on what's going on in my
yeah.
life. And just to get to where we are today. So we've been doing this for a long time, 15 years. We've been at this rucking, for civilians, for fitness, game. And now, like, things changed during the pandemic. Even there was some traction beforehand with, like, the health editors of magazines and other like spaces outside of the military recognizing how great this is, how great rucking is. I actually had a mom friend of mine. She had a baby, and she said, I threw on my ruck, and I was just pushing the baby in the stroller, and I could just feel the pounds melt off of me, just because I was out doing, this simple thing of getting out of the house.
People don't
And
realize how amazing like strength training is for burning
yeah,
calories. Like I don't really talk about calorie burning because I'm an athlete and so I'm really just training. But I will say that as much as it's not cardio, it's a longer burn. Like you
it's
leave the
a
gym
yes.
after after your strength train and you're
Hmm.
still burning calories all day.
Yeah.
It's
And
cool.
the cool thing about rucking is that you can actually it's not the same as the runner's high, but you can get your heart rate up, and you can
Yeah.
actually get cardio training because you're, carrying weight up a hill and you're moving at a, adjust your pace, adjust the elevation, adjust the what you're carrying inside the rucksack.
Right.
So now we've broadened the appeal, which is awesome. I cannot believe we're here. Like it's
And
like
it
we
really
thought we were
does take
this
like
crazy niche thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, it's mainstream now. I mean, it's huge. You guys made it mainstream. I mean, I don't know. It takes
We
it takes a village. It takes years. It takes a decade. I think
it
honestly,
took a long time. It taken
yeah.
hammering the same message and just we're so it was so funny. I always tell people, like, in the earlier days, we'd be in our hometown where we're located, where we're based in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and we'd see someone, with a rucksack on, and we'd be like, "Oh, there's cousin Lee," and there's my mom, rucking. And now we go by and we see people and we're like, I don't even know who they are. And they are
That's
wrecking,
amazing.
and so it's so cool to see. And, what's coming out next is something I'm really proud and excited of. It's something that's we've been working on for a long time. And, GORUCK, because we have really high quality stuff that we don't want to break or fail. That's our military roots. It's like, it can't fail when you need it most, kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
And, brilliance in the basics, sort of, our values of challenging excellence and making sure we do right by people by making something that they will, it's high end, but it won't break. and if it does, we back it by our lifetime guarantee. Yeah, so you can send it in. So we take a little bit longer in the development process, but in doing so, we make sure we get it right. So, because rucking had finally opened up and more people were attracted to doing this, of course, you've got some early, quick hits of some vests out there that are kind of capitalizing on that. Good on them, right? They
I
see
mean,
it
that's
opening.
when you kind of know you made it, like when people start copying you, and
We
it's
haven't had
annoying.
competitors for years. We haven't had
Yeah.
competitors for years, but we, constantly innovating, and so it's great though. It's a great thing to know, like, okay, this is working. People want this. So
It's
I've
beyond
been
your
working.
brand. It's
Yes,
a
yes.
movement.
So
Yeah.
for the last couple years, I've really been honing on with our development team. It's mostly females that I've been working with on this. That's a majority female team out of Vietnam and Jacksonville Beach, and we designed what we think is a weighted vest that is perfect for women and great for rucking. And so that is going to be launching on October 22nd. It's called the Spy Ruck, a little nod to my past career life and something that shaped where we are today. And so the Spy Ruck it's really great materials. It's the external one. The external material is aerobic nylon, so it's water resistant. It's super durable, and then the inside is like a different type of wicking, softer
Hmm.
material that you can actually wear directly against your skin. So it's not abrasive, but if you want to just wear a sports bra or something, like a
Yeah.
sleeveless shirt or something, and something that we saw in, like, with these lower end vests, is that they were causing some chemical burns. They really smelled bad with the neoprene. You wear
Yeah.
wetsuits, it's like that kind of feel, and that's just not
Okay.
that. Those materials are really dirty. So we came up with something that is odorless, that's has steel pellets inside, that are coated so they won't rust, and because people are going to sweat in it, we hope, and
Yeah.
use it, and use it hard. Like, we like people to use all our gear. We're like, try to break it, like, let's see. We built these things to last. And so, then it's the, shape that contours a woman's body. It's got, an interesting kind of system. The clasp, it's basically has a slide. So, depending on where you want it, the strap
Right.
to secure on your chest, you can slide it to do that, and secure it down, or leave it off if you like it off. And just three different weights. We have 8 pounds, 12 pounds, 16 pounds. We have three different colors coming out of the gates: a black, like a desert rock, which is like this really pretty mauve color, and then, like, we call it storm, which is like a really kind of slate blue color. And then we have more colors coming out, and I'm really excited to mention this. Just it's probably not as much for the athletic crowd, but these are so beautiful. These we saw it and we were like, what would it look like in some other, like, different materials, and, like, as a more of a fashion piece, like,
Yeah.
what if women want to wear this, incorporating into their daily life, not when they're out sweating or something like that. So we've got some things in our back pocket on that front, because we think we're looking ahead at what can come with this. Like, rucking is beautiful, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that we're really excited about that, and this has been, like I said, in the works for the last couple years, but really it's been longer than that.
I'm
I
sure.
getting into rucking. This is like 2004, when he's like in the middle of his special forces training, and this is when, like, CrossFit was just starting out too, and so these
Right.
things were, like, within the military and, like, the agency communities. There was a lot of talk around this, how to stay fit for, when you're actually going in the field, and having to show up into intense environments. And I was a runner, and when I was at
Right.
the farm, I would actually, like, put some weight in this little day pack I had that was part of a larger, hiking backpack system. And I'd put stuff in there and run around Camp Perry, trying to get fit. And so, like, at the time, I didn't realize what was, but it did kind of fit me, in a similar way that the current Spy Ruck does.
That's so that's so interesting. I was gonna say, you know, like everyone I talk to on this podcast, and including my own life experience as somebody who's like founded a few companies, like nobody like all of a sudden, like whatever you're doing becomes like a movement or it becomes like super popular and people are like, oh my God, like overnight. But nobody knows like the 10 to 15 years before that that you've been building this, struggling, like giving up, like coming back, like that whole journey of being a founder. I mean, and I feel like, it's kind of a parallel to sports, right? So I always
Yes.
talk about here, like, give me some of the parallels. I love to hear them. They're great sound
Hmm.
bites. Like, if you want to share any parallels from, and I want to talk to you more about your running, but if you want to share any parallels from
Sure.
like maybe give me like one or two parallels that you feel like building a business is so similar
Yeah.
to like maybe rocking or running.
Yes. Oh gosh, that's great. Let me think about that. Um, yes, I mean, I'm an endurance athlete. I ran in college. I was on cross country team. I coach cross country now, for my daughter's team. And, it's true. Like we talk to these young athletes about the different stages of a race, right? When you're just getting out, you are so excited. The adrenaline's there. You just, you're going to run so fast. But if you run too fast, you know what's going to happen. You're going to burn out. You're going to get too much lactic acid build up, and you're not going to be able to finish, or you're going to finish and it's not going to be pretty. And then, the end, part of the race, you can see the finish line. You're there and you're getting positive, the fans are there, they're cheering for you again. It's that middle part, right? That where we tell the girls, this is where the actual work is being done. This is where you need to focus, and you need to go, return to your training and say your mantras and snap yourself back into a positive mindset, and realize that, just staying hanging tough there, even if you're not making any major moves, is going to set you up for that latter third. And of course, being patient enough to go out and put yourself in a good position at the beginning of a race, but not, going over the top. And I think about that. Think about that in terms of like the business mindset, or just going about your day to day. It's like, don't go out too fast. Like, remember that it's the drudgery in the middle is just the drudgery. You're just gonna have to hang tough and get through it. And then the end, hopefully we're not at the end yet, but like, put yourself in a position where there will be people that care about you around you, cheering you on, and you can be proud of your efforts. So, you know, I do a lot of long distance rucking as well, and it's the same sort of thing. Like, it's those years where you're like, no one cares. It feels like you're all alone and no one cares about the work that you're putting in. But they do, and everyone's just busy and dealing with their own stuff, right? It's just like, you just gotta believe that you will get to the finish line, and that this does matter, and just stick to it. I mean, so much of life is just hanging in there, I
Yeah.
think.
I
It's
mean,
just,
that's a whole
you
other
don't have,
pod.
it's a whole other podcast. It's so much of it is just hang in. I mean, in your marriage and your friendships and your family life, your kids, you can extend all this to personal and professional, I think. It's hanging in there. It's believing in whatever you need to believe in that helps you get you through.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
that's awesome. What's your running like? Like, are you doing marathons, ultras, trail, just having fun? Like, what's your,
I am. So my background is I played a lot of other sports growing up. I loved running, but I found it to be a little stressful when I was like winning a lot of races, like in eighth grade, and then I felt
yeah,
like all this pressure to like keep winning, and I just was like, this isn't fun. So I let go of it for a while. I didn't run again until my senior year of high school, and then just on a whim decided I was going to walk on to Georgetown's cross country and track team,
wow.
because that's how I'm just a little bit like, oh, I'll figure it out sort of thing. It was best mistake I ever did, because I didn't realize at the time that they were like a top 3 Division 1 team, super competitive, great coaches, great athletes, top recruits in the nation. One of my best friends was the Foot Locker national champion, and we were sitting across from the coach the same day to my first time meeting the coach, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm getting into. But like I always I tell my runners, like, would you rather be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond? And for me, I learned so much. My times even got better. I became a better athlete, but most of all, the friendships and, the lessons learned from showing up when it's rainy and cold and you have to do 16 by 400 repeats in the wind.
Yeah.
That's where like the real stuff, happens. Having that later translate to, working overseas in tough, austere environments. I find that so before I joined the CIA, I was actually teaching and coaching, and I've always loved that. And when I went overseas, even in my spare time, I was like trying to do like Girls on the Run kind of programs, so,
Yeah.
in Africa, in South America, where I lived for a little bit afterwards. And then today I'm back home, my hometown. My daughter was at this age where she just wasn't into any sports. She loves to read, she loves to do art, music, and I just said, I don't care if you're like really into this or not, but you've got to start building some muscle and moving at
Yeah.
this age. She's hit puberty, and I was just like, for you, like, I think it's important for us to, introduce these things to kids, early age,
Early on.
like
Yeah.
early. Yeah, it matters. Like trying to build muscle, like when you're older is hard,
Oh,
at least get some of that
oh my.
muscle memory,
Yeah.
at least get it going early. So I convinced her, I said, you got to do a sport. And she's like, she was like, I want to do softball. And I was like, no. Let me rephrase this. You cannot do something that's very skilled. You can't jump into that as a 7th grader. So I was like, no, you can do rowing, cross country, track. They had sailing at her school. And, I said, you can do something like that. And she was like, all right, I guess I'll do cross country. She thanks me almost every other day. She'll be like, thank you
How
so
many
much for
years
making me
older
so
is
much.
she now?
She's in 8th grade. It's only been
Oh,
2 years.
still? Okay, so she's saying
She's
thank you
young,
now.
but
Okay,
but
she's young. Yeah.
she's loving it. She's loving
Good.
it. She
That's
loves.
great.
She's not, the fastest on the team, but she ran 6 miles yesterday. And I said, Natalie, can you believe you ran 6 miles? Like you couldn't run more than 2 minutes before. Like she is, and now she's like excited because she's making some travel team opportunities, and
Right. And lots of friends too, right? Like the running community is so awesome. Like even
the
I
social
find it,
component.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good. And when
The
you're a
social
runner,
component is so
yeah,
key. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. And no, there's like
When
a
you're a runner.
language. Like there's just like
Yeah.
it's like an unsaid understanding. Like no matter what you think about outside the run, no matter what your like political beliefs, no matter your
Yeah.
religion, no matter like
No,
whatever, running is like a language. So that's a
we know
great
each
thing to
other.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. So as for me personally, it, I'd been so rucking so much, and I was having a hard time sort of balancing, where, you can do it. It's just like I was busy, and I was like, well, I got to train for this rucking event, so I got to do more of that. But I'm now doing a little bit of more of a hybrid. I'm back running again with a friend of mine who's like a big ultra marathoner, and she's way more fit and better in the long distance with me. But for me, just being able to run, 6 miles with her once or twice a week is really important to me, and it makes me feel connected again, because I'm spoiled in the sense that I don't really
Sorry.
like running by that's
Yeah.
okay. I don't really like running by myself. I don't really like running with AirPods in. It, I grew up running with a team and
Yeah.
having conversations with that team on during the easier runs, and working on hard on, on
Oh my
the
God.
workouts. I'm just getting back into it. And so I'm rucking still and finding times to do like a longer trail run, or like a longer, 6 miles with my friend. And we're talking again. We talk the whole time. I don't even feel like
Yeah.
it's hard. And it's like, it's good to be in that conversational pace again. Um, maybe I'll do some races coming up, and for the meantime, I'm just gonna like be doing the running around like a cross country coach
Yeah.
on the thing. I do run with my athletes on their easy runs when I don't have to time them, and um, I also loved getting the family out the turkey trot because my kids now can do that with us. So yeah, I don't have anything coming up for that, but I am doing some rucking events coming up. I
Yes.
recently did a marathon in New Mexico for the Bataan Memorial Death March, was really awesome. I led an all women's event weekend in St. Louis for our 10-year anniversary of our Badass Babes all women's group. We move it around to a different city every year, so we do a lot of rucking events there. And then in was it August? Yes, in August we did a retreat in Costa Rica with all
That's
for all
nice.
women, and it was like jungle hikes, so difficult conditions, really humid, really muddy environments, water crossings, lots of
Yeah.
elevation. So we did jungle hikes coupled with mobility and yoga sessions, and then of course all the great wildlife that you can do there. So which was really cool, Marnie, because I doing that retreat in Costa Rica, we're gonna do it again. Um, all these women were telling me, I was always kind of curious about doing like a yoga retreat or even like a surfing,
Hmm.
thing, which I've done and they're awesome. But they they said I just, it just wasn't quite me. But when they saw this Go Ruck one for women come out where we were going to be rucking in the jungle, plus
I saw
doing
that.
a little bit of
Yeah.
surfing, a little bit of yoga, they were like, this was like made for me. And I realized women want to be able to do these hikes and these rucks,
Yeah.
And we like to say that rucking is a great way to train for hiking. Jason and I just did 100 miles on the John Muir Trail this summer.
Wow.
It was great couples therapy, but it was also like we rucked
That's
around our
great.
neighborhood to train for that. Of course, we can't simulate the elevation the same as it was,
Yeah.
12,000 feet, but we, added more weight to get strong for it. And then, had the weight we were carrying there wasn't just the steel pellets or ruck plates. It was actually, our food and
Yeah.
water and supplies.
I feel like there must be a huge rucking community, like a huge Go Ruck community as well. I mean, we're talking about running,
Yeah.
but also
Mm,
like I could see, I mean, obviously there's a huge community, but I feel like I could see that
yeah.
also being a thing where like if you rock, you rock, like, and you're a Go Rucker. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We have an amazing community. It's grown over the years, and there's some OGs in there that have been around since the very beginning, and then there's people that are relatively new to it. But what's awesome is that it continues to grow and evolve, and people like you said, like as a runner, I know how we are and our like the way it's done and like our
Yeah.
special like lingo. I've gotten to surfing the past 5 years, and
Oh
that's its
yeah.
own subculture, of course,
Yeah.
that's obviously been opened up by the pandemic and people like me joining. But there's still space for you have to just find your group. And then rucking, of course, we've got our own inside jokes and history and all those types of things. But what I like to what I like about GORUCK is we've really worked hard to make it inclusive and to
Yeah.
make it a place where, you can come at this if you are, some really fit military person, an endurance athlete, um, females and men that are doing these kinds of things. But, if a grandmother can also put on a weighted, vest and actually go and she's rucking too, and we finally gotten to this point, Marnie, and this is like kind of looping this back is that the early days I would often be like, well, what kind of okay, Jason, I know you're focused on creating these really hard endurance events, but like what kind of event can we do that our grandmothers would do or like our moms would do, you know? And so I've
Yeah.
always tried to like bring in that aspect of it to say, you know, and my passion projects at GORUCK are our kids programs, which are small, but I work with a really great woman who's a kindergarten teacher, and we do these great sort of like, you know, book plus workout plus like, you know, encouragement sort of pieces, and then, you know, finding ways to just make rucking can be for anyone.
That's amazing.
If you can walk, you can ruck. Yeah.
This is, I mean, I thought what you were saying about surfing was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit
It's
about,
fun.
so did you surf on your retreat? You did the
Yes,
go.
we did.
Okay.
We didn't do a lot of it. We actually we got glowing reviews from our retreat. The one thing that a couple people said was like, I wish we had a little more time surfing, because, you know, depending on like which group you were in, you might have not maybe had like as much time. Obviously, surfing's tricky because it's very dependent on the waves and the conditions. But in Costa Rica where we are, you can have really big waves, and that's not beginner friendly. That being said, we are going to, you know, try to work that in, or at least be, you know, kind of clear about what the expectations are with that. But the I've always wanted to surf. I grew up by the ocean, dated a lot of surfers growing up, so I was always kind of adjacent to it, and I dabbled here and there, but never really learned, right? It's like I
Right.
never really committed to it. So, you know, pandemics happening, and, you know, just when things were like able where you could actually travel again, a friend of mine, who I met through the rucking community, she was like, "Do you want to go to the surf retreat with me?" And I was like, you know, it's like when someone says something that's exactly what you want, and I was like, "Yes, yes, I do." And it's just like for one whole week, twice a day, I went on a surf session with instructors and got to where I can catch my own waves. And so I live a block from the ocean, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to learn. I was like, it's right here. I'm
Yeah.
not, this is something I could do that I'm not really good at. I don't have any expectations for. And I want to have this relationship with the ocean. And so it worked. It
That's
worked. I'm like,
amazing.
I went home and I surf now on my own. Like, I'm really careful about going on my own for the conditions, but I surf with a group of like female surfers too, and
That's so
sometimes
cool.
some guys. But it's something that I've kept up, and we had, you know, it's been hurricane season, and fortunately there's been no big, you know, direct hits, but they've been pushing some good waves where we live. And there was one streak, 5 days in a row I went surfing, and I was
Wow.
like, this is so great. But what I love about surfing is that same sort of mindset of what I was talking about earlier about, you know, the case officer life, like you never know what to expect. I love this like buzz in the air when there's good waves and people are just like, I'm going to be late to work, or I'm going to skip school, and people are just grabbing their boards and running. They're not
Yeah.
walking, they're running to the ocean. And I always felt like I was missing out on this growing up in this area and not
Yeah.
ever being a part. And now it's like I'm not the best surfer. I watch where I surf. I don't go to the big waves. I don't go into the crowded, like, you know, really localized areas where someone might get angry at you. But I go in like basically, you know, my beach access, and I can catch a wave, and that's really fun for me
That's
to be
so
able to do
cool.
that. I
Yeah.
find
I
it to be a
definitely,
really great, yes, I find it to be a really great, um, like yin to the yang of running and rucking. You know, it's like
interesting.
there's just like a different sort of balance to it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we were like off camera when we were talking about like earlier my swimming, right? So I do think
Yeah.
that it's like a nice in between. Um, and I think like, you know, as you said, like, you know, showing up is part of it. And so
Yeah.
like one of these days I'm actually going to go in the ocean. But yeah,
Yes.
surfing is like, definitely I feel in my gut where I need to start with the ocean. Um, yeah.
My relationship has gotten better with the ocean. I used to be like, I'm scared of sharks, or I'm scared I'm going to get sucked out by you know, a run out, you know, because like I've grown up around it, so I know how dangerous it can
Yeah.
be. And by, you know, being around people that, you know, are more familiar with it, and they, you know, you study, you're like, you're looking at I got a surf app now. I look at the tides. I look at
Yeah.
the wind, and it's like I feel like, sure, I still need to remember that I'm just a small little human out there, but I go in when I feel tired too. I'll be like, I had to get like I got like a cheapo watch that I could wear that, didn't do anything fancy, just to be able to be like, okay, I've been out here for like 2 hours now. I think
Oh my
I'm
God.
at my
Wow.
limit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, because you can get it's addictive. You're like, oh, one more wave, or something like
Okay.
that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So I'm careful, and that's sort of like the person in their 40s speaking, and not the 20s. You know,
The 20-year-old would be
some
out there six
wisdom.
hours.
The 21
No, I
would
mean,
be
I
like,
think,
oh, I did it till I can't swim anymore. You know?
yeah, no, I think that that's part of the any sport that you do too, right? Like being obsessed
Yeah.
with the weather and the conditions. And, it's easy when you're on the
Yeah.
road. It's different with the
Yeah.
ocean. So I love that analogy.
One more thing, the shark thing. I I made the mistake and showed my kids the movie Jaws over at, like, when they were little at the pandemic, and they didn't go in the ocean for a year, but now they're back in. And of course, we all have these like subconscious, like, oh, you just don't know what's under the water kind of fears. I have gotten to the point where I can see a shark while surfing and just be like calm, and sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to paddle in now, but I don't like lose my mind. It's like,
Yeah.
I know this is a fear that I have to face, and that, you know, it's just a fact of life that sharks are in the ocean, and they're just probably minding their own business trying to catch a fish. And if they, luckily these aren't great whites mostly where we
Right.
are. So if they do bite you, the worst thing that could happen is you could bleed out, and you got to get to safety quickly. But um, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But it
Have you
has
heard
it
of
has been
shark
something that I've
bands?
had to work
Yeah.
through.
You,
I
you've,
so I've used the shark bands before. I actually bought one for one of our GORUCK events, which was this crazy custom event that we do not run anymore. It was 24 hours in the ocean. It was the whole
oh my
event,
God.
where we had our rucksacks, not with weight in them, but they were packed with supplies. And they actually, a fun fact, our rucksacks are flotation devices. If you pack them full and not
Hmm.
with like a ton of weight in it, but just with like your jacket and water and stuff like that, they will actually float. Um, so we did a whole GORUCK event, and it was like we were going to be out in the ocean for 24 hours, like overnight. And I was like, I know how many sharks are in that water. Like, I am not okay with this.
On
So
paddleboards or on boats?
we were just with our rucks in the ocean. I started wearing them while I went surfing, the shark bands, it was basically like, a $60 security blanket, I think. But it gave me confidence to actually go out. And now I don't even use the shark band. Like,
Right.
I feel like I don't need it. Like, it was helpful to me to get to that stage. And I know I've loaned it to people that need
Yeah.
that too. They're like, I won't go out there without it, like my kids or some, like, a friend. So it works,
I
actually.
I heard about it when I was in Hawaii. So I was in
Hmm.
Hawaii and I was just on vacation and I was cycling with a group, and the people in the group also swim because of course they're triathletes. And
Yeah.
they were saying you have to, so I was, they're like, you have to have this guy on your podcast for this company, Shark Bands. And I was like, what is
Yeah.
that? And by the way, like in my mind, I invented this years ago because when I windsurf for like since I'm 16, like for
That's
years.
so
And
cool.
I always wanted to have something on the board that said, like, I mean, I'm not a SEAL, I am not a SEAL, to put
Yeah.
that energy out into the water so that I could just windsurf.
Yeah.
And apparently it was already invented by someone in the Navy, in Australia or whatever, like something like that technology. Flash forward, like I start the podcast, I was like, a couple hundred episodes in, and I was in Hawaii like a year and a half ago, and someone told me about Shark Band. So I did interview the founder, and
So
actually it was
cool.
really interesting because like, and my partner at the time, she's like, I don't want to wear it because I think it will like attract the sharks. I'm like, okay, so now I had that thought in my head, so I never use it. But like at the same time, like, like I have like a logical brain and an illogical brain, right? So obviously there are sharks in the ocean, the same way there are like bees outside, right? And
Yeah. Right.
mosquitoes and all those things. But like I still go outside. Just saying.
Yeah.
Like that's where I come into this logic. But then when I get to the ocean, like all of that logic goes out the like goes off the table, and I'm just like, first it's the waves, then I'm like, oh, it's a nice day, let me think about something else to psych myself out of swimming. But
Yeah.
yeah, the shark
Yeah.
thing, I mean, there are sharks, and so how do you coexist with them in the ocean? I guess that's like the best
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, and they don't
No.
really bite unless they think you're a seal.
Yeah. I mean, it, listen, like it's like the thing that you have to like all the things that scare us the most are probably they're not necessarily statistically what's most likely going to kill us, right?
Right.
It's
Like you eat a bag
like
of Cheetos
driving.
and yeah.
Yeah, like heart attacks and like vehicular accidents, but we don't even like really think about it. But like we're worried like about the shark, but it's because of movies like Jaws and the things that are deeply
Yeah.
embedded in our psyches and whatnot. I mean, I have to teach my children because we're in Florida that
Yeah.
you do not get in any body of water unless it's a pool,
Yeah.
because there's alligators. Like
Yeah,
we
that's
have
worse.
an alligator problem, which is worse. And we always do the "Would you rather" game with my kids. It's like, would you rather get bit by a shark or an alligator? My kids know. They're like, always a shark. We'd rather get bit by a shark, mom, because you can survive that. But
Yeah,
but
that's
I hear
smart.
you.
That's the things you have
The
to
shark
teach your
fin, I think
kids.
it actually does work. I don't know. I mean, I haven't tested that because I
Right,
haven't
right.
like I haven't actually seen a shark come to me and then leave, but
Yeah,
I've worn it and I've never been bit by a shark, but I also think it is something psychological too, right? It
yeah,
did give me the courage to go out and actually start enjoying the ocean more because of it. And
yeah,
I also know when the shark, when the people are fishing for sharks or when they're catching them, like these are the times of day that you don't go in the ocean, right?
yeah,
Like anytime at dusk and at dawn, like that's when they feed. So it's just
yeah,
like this is what that like the knowledge of the conditions does matter, and
yeah,
being a
yeah.
local and knowing these things. And
Yeah, the
I
locals
think
here
that's
are
some
like amazing. Like in the water is
yeah.
cold in Long Beach, but it's like they know everything. Like it's a whole other language. Like it's so cool. I just loved like talking to them. I mean, yeah,
This is so important though. Like this is something that I think about a lot based upon my work even as a case officer and Jason's work as a Green Beret and just life in general. It's like we are social creatures as humans, and we are so much better and stronger and wiser when we communicate with each other this way.
yes,
When they when you like are coming from a different part of the country and you're landing here, talking to the locals and finding
yeah,
out like these things and having locals that are receptive to those kind of questions is really important. Like in Jacksonville, it's like every year you see a drowning at the beach and it's really sad, and most of the time it's from someone who was visiting,
yeah.
from like as a tourist or something. And it's really upsetting because you think, gosh, it'd be so preventable if they understood, like, you don't go out in the water, at this time because you're
During a
more likely
riptide
to have
or yeah,
riptides. Yeah, stuff like that. And same thing with like people going on hikes, right? Like local, you got to know what the locals, how they do it. Because it actually is like this shared wisdom that we need to
yeah. I
make
mean,
sure
that's like
that we're,
my go-to anywhere I go. The first thing I do is connect with my community, even if I don't know people. But like at the end of the day, like I spend my life training, like or working. So
yeah,
that's my
that's
so
awesome.
yeah. So that was like, and even in the city, like I always find the people that like are crazy that go to Coney Island in Brooklyn, like during the
Yeah,
winter. Like they're called
yeah.
SIBO and they swim in the ocean. I'm so close. There's like gonna be someday I know that I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna become an ocean swimmer. But it's like whenever
Yes,
I go
you
to a
are
new place, like
close.
I'm like, what's the running? What's the cycling? Like who's riding where? But I'm super
Such
psyched
a
to meet
great
you
way to
next week. Yeah.
see. Yeah, same. What are you training for? What's your next
So
thing?
right now I'm not like really training for anything because
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to I spray so it's like quick three sentences. I sprained my ankle last summer doing something stupid like that involved walking my dog.
Yeah.
Then I went through 2 rounds of PRP. So I basically don't listen to people and I decided to try to run 14 miles after the sprain. That was not a good thing. So then it turned into partial tear. And so yeah, I've been like suffering through a sprained ankle with PRP setbacks, and I
Yeah.
finally started running again in September. So like
Good.
this year, I'm just working on building a base and
Yeah.
respecting my body and listening to like the
Smart.
universe of like, don't
Yeah.
do stupid shit. It's a big adult lesson. Don't run 14
No.
miles. Do not train for a marathon. Don't spend any more money signing up for the marathons. And just
Yes.
like swim.
And
Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Emily. This has been awesome.
yes. Thank you for having me. I look forward